Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks for the housekeeping, Akila. Just to set some expectations, I had some technical issues, so my setup is a little bit different than I'm used to. So apologies if I'm looking all over the place because I have two different monitors somewhere else. But super excited about today's webinar. And before we start with the agenda, what we're going to cover today, just a super quick introduction about today's speakers and also who you have in the chat. So nice to meet everyone, I guess, virtually, and thanks for attending today's webinar. My name is Tram Nguyen, and I'm the Senior Manager of the product side here at Sherweb, managing the two portfolios, productivity and business applications, which includes products like Microsoft 65, Dynamics 65, and now also recently Rewst. And I'm also super excited to be joined today by Nathan Svec, who's the Vice President of Strategic Partners at Rewst, our newest vendor in our marketplace. And a few notes I had on my side here I wanted to cover is just Nathan brings extensive experience in the automation space and works very closely with MSPs to help them leverage automation for greater efficiency and profitability. So I'm super excited to have you here, Nathan. Thanks for joining today's webinar. Awesome. And in the chat, we also have Jim Despinoza and Ed Hadley from Rewst as well, who are there to answer any questions you guys might have. So with that, thanks, Akila, for, going over the agenda. Let's see what we're going to cover today. So we'll start by discussing why automation is a game changer for MSPs and why MSPs should automate. As the demand for managed services grows, automation can help streamline operations, reduce manual workloads, and ultimately drive profitability. And we'll for sure cover a lot of those, both on my section and I guess also later, Nathan, on your side as well. Then Nathan will provide an overview of Rewst, the newest vendor we've added to our Sherweb's marketplace. I'll walk us through on how Rewst is helping MSPs leverage automation to improve efficiency and scale the business. Then we'll also dive into some more practical example. So how you as an MSP can create workflows using Rewst alongside with other Sherweb marketplace products. So we'll also talk about the extensive automation integrations you guys have on the Rewst side as well, and cover a few things on that side. And finally, I'm super excited that Devin from Accurate Networks is also joining us today to talk about a real-life MSP success story. So super stoked to have him on board later as well, where we talk about a few things they've implemented with Rewst and I guess the benefits and improvements they've seen on their end. So we have a lot of things to cover. So let's jump right into why MSPs should automate. Awesome. So let's see, we had a few things in terms of research, just seeing what does the market say around automation, MSPs, and what's important. So you see on the slide a few things we've found in some recent studies. For example, that 88% of MSPs say that manual tasks prevent key resources from spending time on innovation or advancing strategic goals. You see that over 90% of MSPs see automation as crucial to scalability and operational efficiencies, especially when it comes to handling more clients and increasing revenue. And you can also see some other stats that 95% of MSPs say that automating their processes is necessary to focus on innovation and strategic goals, as well as 90% of MSPs who see application integration as critical to their operations as it helps streamline processes, reduce duplicate efforts, and automates repetitive tasks, which is very impressive if you just look at those stats, right? It really shows that the majority, basically every one of you guys here currently on the webinar probably have very, very similar feelings and experiences on your end. So we weren't really surprised when we're looking at any recent studies. So I'm super curious, Nathan, I know that you're probably going to talk about it later, but would you echo that you guys seeing the same on the Rewst side as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a big pivot happening in the MSP space where MSPs are looking to be more efficient so that they can scale as they grow. Because it's hard to find good talent, and also it's hard to keep the good talent. And as you grow, automation is the solution to that. You're not removing people; you're adding functionality to what they're doing to make them more efficient.
Yeah, and for sure, I also would say that all of those numbers for sure paint a clear picture that automation is no longer optional, right? It's it's a critical factor if you want to have success as an MSP in today's landscape. It's as I mentioned, it's no longer optional. Awesome. Kind of like going over those stats, let's take a closer look at why automation matters, and I guess like the specific ways it can transform an MSP operations. On that slide here, it's kind of like a similar but also different look at the current state, specifically looking at MSPs around the world. And hopefully everyone who's currently on the webinar agrees with those kind of things we've found in our research. So MSPs around the world face similar challenges around signing. Hey, you need to sign more customers. You need to manage every single day new security threats. You need to hire new employees, or I guess like train them so they're able to take on more tasks. You have IT budget shrinkage for sure. It's also at the same time important for you to retain your customers, and also to have like the remote monitoring of external and internal procedures. So in general, like kind of like in a nutshell, it's just like also the pressure which is increasing that you have to deliver services faster while maintaining profitability. So similar to what you said, Nathan, earlier. It's just like a lot of, if I look at all the different stats and the current it's a very busy time for MSPs, right? To kind of like trying to juggle all those different things at the same time while trying to, I guess, like maintain efficient and proficient. On that note, let me see if there was anything else which I wanted to cover on this slide. Yeah, I guess like one of the notes I had was the common theme across all of these challenges is efficiency. So kind of like MSPs are being asked to do more with fewer resources, and the reality is that manual processes simply don't scale. So that's why and where automation plays a critical role. It helps MSPs streamline operations, reduce costs, and focus your teams and their teams on high value work instead of repetitive tasks. With that, let's explore how automation directly addresses a few of those challenges and creates new opportunities on the next slide. So we've talked about the challenges MSP face and how automation is becoming essential for success. We kind of like also now break it down exactly how automation might help you stay competitive and drive growth. So first, you can see that automation increases efficiency by streamlining your operations. So you can automate repetitive tasks such as user onboarding, offboarding, patch management, updates, tickets triage, and assignment, backup monitoring and reporting. And I know that, Nathan, you're going to cover probably a few of those examples later on how Rewst can help with that. On the second bullet point, you can see growth, similar to what Nathan just mentioned, scaling without necessarily maybe increasing headcount, or if you increase headcount to, I guess, like make the most of it. Increasing your technicians' productivity with automation, which allows you to drive efficiency in service delivery, reducing labor costs and improving margins. And then lastly, the point you can see here is improving customer satisfaction, because automation can ensure that clients' experience are consistent. Whatever, it doesn't matter which technician is taking which ticket for which topic, it will always be kind of like the same consistent experience. You provide high quality supports, which then can also drive retention and referrals. So that's kind of like a summary of why I guess automation matters, especially at the current state as an MSP. So that's kind of like my summary. I don't know, Nathan, if you have anything else you thought might be interesting to add, as in the current state of the MSP world and why automation matters, before we go over your part.
No, I think you brought up a couple of key points, and I think that automation is differentiating MSPs, giving MSPs the ability to automate things for their customers, automation as a service, automating things within their business, making their business more efficient. There's just a lot of revenue opportunity for an MSP to capture in automation today. I think that's one of the key points I'm going to be talking about, and I think Devin has a lot of really cool stuff that they're doing that's going to kind of show that also.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I guess like my part is covered. So I kind of like gave everyone a summary of like what the current state of MSPs looks like, and also what research currently says. So with that, happy, Nathan, for you to take over. So let's hear from you guys and from Rewst on how you can help through automation. Wow, language today.
Cool. Can we go to the next slide real quick? Yeah. So this is just a quick, picture of Rewst, right? We've got a little more than 1,100 MSP partners. This slide is a 30-day period, for the amount of workflows we run and the amount of time we save. That time metric right there, 718,000 hours, that's actually a metric that's given to us by our partners. So that's not a Rewst metric. We don't say this automation saves you this amount of time. Our partners go fill that out, and then we're pulling that data from what they're telling us. So Rewst we're an RPA solution, so right, robotic process automation tool. We're purpose built for the MSPs. Again, we've got about 1,100 MSP partners. It's a little old, but yeah. And then Rewst has pre-built automations, and we have customers building automations. So between our pre-built and our custom workflows that our partners are building, we're running 130 million workflows every 30 days. So that's a enormous number that equates to us saving our customers 718,000 hours a month. So this is a significant amount of time savings, and the way that our customers are seeing this is through automating processes that they already have documented, and then they're just automating those processes using the tools that they have pre-built in their stack today. So can we go to the next slide? So again, Rewst is a tailor-built tool for the MSPs, right? So there's a lot of different RPAs in the space. A lot of those RPAs are focused on more enterprise, and so Rewst took the approach of focusing on MSPs. So the integrations that we build and maintain, so Rewst builds and maintains these integrations, so you don't have to go, set up all of the API calls and then set up the authentication method in the tool you're using. Rewst builds those things today. So then you go in and then you can configure your RMM, your PSA, your documentation tool, your Microsoft licensing, purchasing licenses through Sherweb, setting up your security tools using, OpenAI or, Anthropic or Claw, right, as your AI counterpart. We have integrations with all of these tools. And since we have these integrations, then we build automations for our customers. We call them pre-built or crates. We have a little more than 100 pre-built automations today. Those are things that range from, password resets, identifying a mailbox that's about to hit its quota of storage, user onboarding, user offboarding, MFA detection if someone turns off MFA, forcing that MFA to get turned back on. Number of things, backup failure reporting, right? There's 100 of them. I can't list them all today, but scheduled demo, we can go through them all. We also give you the ability to take those workflows, put them in your environment, and then edit them. So we give you a workflow builder that you can take any of the pre-builts that we have today, and you can make them your own. You can fully customize them. You can add functionality, remove functionality. It's your workflow to be able to do what you want with it. With that, right, a lot of ways that you want your customers to actually interact with the workflows is going to be through forms. And so we actually give you a form builder where you can build forms to be able to have your customers go to a link to onboard a user, offboard a user, set their password resets, things like that. And then the next piece is we have a product that's in beta today. It's called App Builder. What that does, it actually gives you functionality to be able to build applications on top of these workflows to be able to present things to your customers. Things like, running a dashboard for your customers, or, having your NOC have the security tools up in place to be able to show metrics and things like that. Can we go to the next slide? So this is our top 10 use cases. And so one of the ones on here, I'm just kind of going to go to number 7, just because I think it's really important to talk about and we overlook it a lot. Password resets, right? Simple task. I think there's, a number of people on this call that you guys get a lot of those a day. I think on average, what I'm hearing from MSPs is this task takes about 10 minutes for a technician to do. If that task is taking 10 minutes and you're getting 100 of those a month, right? Just 100 password resets. Seems like a lot, but if you're managing 1,000 partners, 2,000 partners, right? That's not really a big number. But if you take 10 minutes, multiply that by 100 tickets, you're going to come up with 16 hours of your technician time is being taken up by password resets. Say Rewst can't automate 100% of that, right? Say there's something in your process, you have more of a white glove approach where you want to call and talk to the user. You want to, there's things the automation isn't going to do that you want a person to do. Say we're only automating 50% of that. We can save 8 hours of time just in automating 50% of that of your technician. If your technician had 8 hours more free every month, what could they do? Then you add in these big ticket items like client user onboarding and offboarding. So every time your customer sends you an email and says, hey, I need to add, Jim Despinoza as my new salesperson. And so instead of a technician then having to take that ticket, go to Sherweb, purchase the license, then go to Microsoft, create the new user and assign the user the license, then go to the on-prem server and create the user there, then go set them up in all the groups that they need to be part of, and that entire process. The Rewst automation does all of those things. So the customer can send in an email that goes to your PSA. That PSA can be the trigger that Rewst grabs that ticket, and then we send your customer back a webhook or a URL. They go to that URL, they give Rewst the information about that new customer that's joining, first name, last name, what office they're going to be working in, basic information. Rewst then grabs that, and then we go create that user. We purchase the license in Sherweb. We assign that license to the new user that we create in Microsoft 365. We set that user up in the groups that they need to be part of, the shared calendars, mailboxes, OneDrive sites. We go down to the local on-prem. If you're in a cloud and local environment, right, we create them on the local server. We do all those things. We set them up in your documentation system and your PSA as a custom contact. We set them up with your MFA provider, your email security tool, right? Like all of those things are done. And then offboarding, it's another big one, right? You probably get an offboarding request the Monday after they fired the person the last Friday, right? A lot of times your customer is reacting to something that they did already, and then they're like, oh, hey, I forgot to do this. Instead of your technician having to race and kind of do this, or they say they're going to fire somebody Friday at 5 o'clock, and then your technician has to stay late to do these things, you can just have them fill out a form. And that form will go through, it'll disable the user, it'll reset their password, it'll convert the mailbox to a shared mailbox, we'll disable the account on the on-prem server, and then also go through all of the other applications that you want to add on to that offboarding workflow to make sure that that user is fully removed from the organization. Because every MSP probably has that offboarding checklist, right? We want to make sure we never missed anything on that checklist. And so Rewst is going to kind of automate that checklist for you. There's a number of other big ones in here. Another one is, just-in-time admin access. So giving your technicians or your customers the ability to go to a workflow, fill out a form, and then get admin access to a machine for a certain period of time to install an update, install a software, install, what is this product we're using? Go to webinar, right? We just ran into that.
I could have used that.
Right? We just, like your customers' employees are going through this all the time. You don't want to give them admin access because that's not a good thing. But if they need to install something quickly because they have to hop on a webinar, right? There's an opportunity for them to go fill out a form, get that access quickly to be able to do the task that they're trying to do. Security and compliance alerting, 365 management are those two are just like use cases. There's a ton of stuff to talk about there. Detecting if the AV is running on a machine. Sentinel-1 has threat not mitigated alerts. So identifying if Sentinel-1's running on the machine and an alert and an attack is happening on the machine that Sentinel-1 can't take care of because that attack is running at a higher level than Sentinel-1. So Sentinel-1 creates an alert, says threat not mitigated. What Rewst can do is then use your PSA's alert, go to the RMM, isolate that machine, block all east, west, and northwest traffic on the machine to just allow your RMM and Sentinel-1 to be able to connect to the machine. Then that spread ends. Then you have 365 management, things like, if I have to go to Berlin, instead of me having to call up my IT guy and saying, hey, I need to go to Berlin, can you make sure I'm in the correct conditional access policy for me to be able to access my email when I'm out of country? We can just give your customer a form. They can say when they're going and when they're coming back. And then Rewst will set them in the conditional access policy, allowing that country. But then the most important thing is when they come back, when that date happens, we'll remove them from that conditional access policy. MFA reporting. When a owner of a company decides, I hate this MFA thing, it's breaking all the time, I'm just going to turn it off. And they turn it off, you'll get an alert. And more than an alert, you can actually configure the workflow to sign that user out of all active sessions and forcing them to enable MFA again. And then the last one there, just AI ticket categorization prioritization. I think this is cool. It's just how AI is changing things, right? So when a ticket comes into the PSA, Rewst can grab that ticket data and set the type, subtype, and item of that ticket. We can also take that ticket and then help to connect the technician to it right away if it's an urgent issue. Yeah. And then let's go to the next one. So yeah, really excited to be working with Sherweb to be able to be in their marketplace for you guys to acquire Rewst through the Sherweb team. Tram, do you have anything you wanted to add to this one?
Probably two things. So I definitely echo, I guess, like on behalf of Sherweb, that we're super excited to have you guys in our marketplace. I know that it was heavily requested from our MSPs and partners that they either already using Rewst and are loving it and want to, I guess, consume it through our Sherweb marketplace. So yeah, very stoked that we were able to launch with you guys. And maybe just like a call to action for anyone on the call, like if you are interested in, I guess, like getting a demo, you can reach out to your account rep who will then connect you to Rewst. Or if you want to, like, if you in general have any questions or comments on how, I guess, like how to get Rewst in our marketplace, reach out to your sales rep as well.
Cool. So Rewst, you decided you're going to go through Sherweb, you're going to buy Rewst. What does it actually look like, right? You're going to come into Rewst and you're going to go through our onboarding and enablement. Our team is going to work with you to get Rewst set up for your organization. And then there's opportunities for you to go through our Cluck U or Cluck University, which is our training curriculum to be able to go learn how to build automations. Then we're going to work with you and get those pre-built automations set up, right? So things like those password reset, that onboarding, offboarding, to get you that initial value in Rewst. Start you saving time. Start your technicians saving time. When your technicians then are saving time, that gives them more time to be able to automate more, right? So then they can start building things that you want them to build on top of the pre-builts. So then you can start doing some customizations, and then you can build custom workflows. And then the last piece, this is where you want to get to as soon as possible, but you want to get your time to value there, right? You need to get everything in place to be able to learn to know, but then you can start delivering automation as a service to your partners. So your partners have a specific process that they have to do with their HR system, or there's a ton of processes that you can automate very simply through Microsoft 365, through the RMM agent, stuff like that, where your customers doing these things manually today, and you can take that manual task, you can build an automation, and then you can sell them that monthly service. Now, what does that do? It does a couple things. Number one, I'm in sales. Biggest thing is that is the biggest hook that you can have in that customer ever. They're not leaving you, right? That automation, you're doing that service for them. They're not going to get that somewhere else. And now you've hooked them into your organization with that, and it's a differentiator. So other MSPs maybe aren't doing this in your area, and now you can start differentiating your MSP as, hey, we provide automation to our customers to, again, save that customer time so that as they grow, they don't necessarily have to hire as fast. They can hire efficiently and they can make their employees more efficient. And then next one. So here, this is a big one. I want to talk, Tram, we can talk through some of these things, but Sherweb sells a lot of products. Rewst integrates with a lot of these products today. Things like Microsoft Azure, Microsoft 365, Bitdefender, Proofpoint, SyncMonkey, Acronis, Nerdio, SentinelOne, right? Those are integrations that Rewst has built today, and we maintain those integrations. So things like Acronis, we have workflows where if an Acronis backup fails on a machine, Rewst goes through that help desk documentation that Acronis has on their website of, hey, these are the things you have to do to fix this backup failure. And Rewst does that in a crate. And then we update that information in the PSA. Once we have a successful backup, we'll close the ticket. So that's a ticket that your technicians no longer have to worry about. Things like SyncMonkey, we take the data from your Microsoft 365 environment, from your PSA, from all of the different tools, and we document that into SyncMonkey's tool. SentinelOne, I talked about the threat not mitigated alert. Nerdio, we do a ton with Nerdio around the Microsoft Azure integration and getting things set up, like creating, like onboarding, right? You need to onboard and then you have to set up a new user in Nerdio and everything like that. We can automate that entire process. So using the tools you're already having your stack through Sherweb, these integrations, you just connect them together in a clean way using Rewst to be able to continue automating the processes that you guys have that are manual today. Jeremy, did you want to add anything?
I guess like just to add on what you just said, right? I think is amazing. I mean, in general, when we talk about Rewst and all the different, like, what was it, like 100 plus integrations you guys have, and that it like so well connects to the different vendors we have on our marketplace. And just to say, I think you guys are working continuously on adding more integrations. The Sherweb, we're adding more and more vendors to our marketplace as well, which I will assume you guys will also have more integrations. So I guess it's just like the summary of, as an MSP, using Rewst with, I guess, like the Sherweb marketplace just makes a lot of sense, because I guess you guys understand the MSP market. We understand what MSPs need and have currently in their tech stack. So I think it's just like a really, really great slide to show how everything is connected and how you can use Rewst with every, I guess, like other Sherweb vendor.
Awesome.
Awesome. I think that was your last one, right? So thank you, Nathan. And I guess I know for any other later Q&A, if anyone else has a question, I know that you're here. I was wondering, Devin, if you're going to wear your, what was it, a penguin bird?
It's a pigeon.
A pigeon. It was gray. The mask. Awesome. So now that we've heard from Nathan and from Rewst on how Rewst empowers MSPs through automation, and you've heard from me, I guess, like why it's important. As I mentioned, super excited to have you here, Devin, who's like a partner of Sherweb in Accurate Networks, and you guys are currently using Rewst. So super excited to introduce you. And I know that you have successfully implemented automation with Rewst and using it right now. So I know that for the next, I guess, a few minutes, we agreed on doing some sort of a Q&A. So I have a few questions I can ask you, or would love to ask you, Devin, where you can share some insights, I guess, like tips and tricks, anything on your end. And I don't know if we will have some time. I know that we spoke about that maybe you want to share some like real life examples on automation, but we'll see if we have some time later. So maybe the first question I would start with, Devin, is what was the initial trigger that made you, and I guess like Accurate Networks, realize that automation was necessary?
I feel like I was the big driver for that. It was 7 years ago. I started the MSP space, started here, and just like user onboarding tickets were brutal. They just took forever. And so we had actually onboarded a client who had the beginnings of an early PowerShell script. And so I kind of spread that to a few of our other larger clients, and that kind of really highlighted that we needed to start automating things.
Makes sense. And I guess like, let me see what other questions I had. Like maybe in this, I don't know if it's the same process, but I guess like what was the first process you automated, and why did you choose to start with that one?
So, I mean, we automated several things at several different points, but onboarding and offboarding was always the big ticket and sort of like our initial focus. When we started with Rewst, there was 2 of us that were actually involved in setting up automations. My coworker focused on building out onboarding, offboarding, and I went after billing reconciliation, because that's, I mean, of the list that Nathan shared, that's number 3. And so that was kind of my primary focus.
And it's kind of like in the same realm. So it kind of like sounds like 2 people currently at Accurate Networks. Like who in the organization would take like ownership of automation? I know that anytime I talk about it with Jim or Nathan, it's kind of like, could be anyone, but do you guys have like specific people? I guess assume you.
Yeah, so centralized services for us is a department of 5. There's 2 of us that are more automation focused, but like 98% of that is me. So it's only whenever it comes to the onboarding, offboarding that my team member handles any of that.
And just kind of diving into that, Devin, I think that's a great, it's a great story. So when you guys started, you obviously, you went through CluckU, you did pre-builds at first, started learning it, and then you started customizing. What was that journey look like for you guys as you kind of moved from like the PowerShell automation into RPA automation?
I mean, when we started, I don't know that there was even that many crates.
I don't think there was.
Yeah, I think we looked at the onboarding crate and maybe there was just too much in the form or something. And we actually went full custom and currently still maintain full custom. We kind of went the hard route to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I should have brought that up initially, but you guys were super early. I think this is what, 3 years you've been using Rewst now?
So it was May 2023 that we signed up. We actually looked at Rewst May of 2022, but our RMM was not supported because the End Central API is, up until recently, was just not something that we could work with.
It's better now.
So that led us on a journey to actually set up ImiBot for benching, which then also really highlighted our ability to automate. And so then it was a year later, after all of that we ended up actually on with Rewst.
Yeah, so you guys have been a partner for just about 2 years, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Maybe in the same topic, I guess because I know that some of the objections handling, right? Like, hey, like this, the product has a cost, and like, what about ROI? I guess one of the questions I know we'll probably sometimes get as well from anyone who is like not super familiar with either RPA or automation or Rewst in general. Like, what are the benefits you guys have seen since using Rewst, except for like, I don't know if you even have like some ROI KPIs, any like stats you can share.
So we went a couple different routes. So I actually went and found my spreadsheet from 2023 when we set up with Rewst, where I was tracking an ROI of how long a manual task would take versus how many hours I was putting in its recurrence to figure out its payoff, because we were aiming for about a 90-day return or so. And all of mine were very billing reconciliation focused, with the primary reason for that being that directly impacts our accounting team, and they're the ones that will actually be the ones to approve us purchasing. So that was to directly win them over, we went after their tasks first.
It was a smart decision.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe if I go over, like, I think I still have like 1 or 2 questions, because I think Nathan and Devin, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like, from all the conversations we've had with you guys in both directions, I think one of the like main key selling points besides the technical portion of Rewst is really like the community portion, right? I think the whole Rewst supporting you guys from the onboarding day to really like setting up and building those automations, I think is really good, and something we've heard as well. And I think also the university, and like, what was it with you guys having weekly webinars, and like the community, was it Discord or Slack groups you guys use?
Yeah, so I'll start, Devin, and then I'd love to hear your perspective on it. But so a couple things there. We have a weekly call. We call it our open mic call on Fridays, where we have pretty much our entire customer base is open to join it anytime. So typically we see about 300 MSPs joining it. And we have, our partners like Devin get on and share things that they built, and just show what they're doing in the product. We also have Discord. So every customer that comes into Rewst gets a Discord channel, and that's how they interact with our ROC, our Robotic Operations Center, which is our team of automation specialists that help support your automation building. And then we also, in Discord, we have a channel called R&D, which is Rob and Duplicate. And this is where, MSP partners, they will provide the workflows that they've built in Rewst. And then other people take them and they rob it and they duplicate it in their environment. And I think the community that we built is just a lot of people, share and collaborate. Those open mic calls are, somebody will be showing something and somebody else will chime in and say, hey, why didn't you do this? Why did you do it this way? And it's just a bunch of people collaborating, which is really cool. Devin, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, between the Discord channel and Teams calls, you'll see the pigeon mask, and that is purely because I'm pigeon noises in Discord. There's The calls are great. I might not go to every Friday call, but yeah, the Rob and Duplicate, just Aaron's intros are just glorious. I'm not going to make it this year, but Flow last year was just my absolute favorite conference that I've been to. It's huge. There's a bunch of us that post our flows in the channel and then also on GitHub to share with everyone as well. I've jumped on calls with other MSPs to like assist them in troubleshooting and whatnot, just because you can only get so much through the Discord channel. It's awesome. I love it.
And I think it's, I mean, like, I can speak, I guess, like from a Sherweb lens, because I mean, we've had a lot of vendors in our marketplace and we were adding a lot of vendors, but I do think that the community factor from Rewst and all of you guys, I think that's very unique. Like, I haven't seen it, I guess, like this tight in a lot of other vendors. So I think that was why I wanted to call it out specifically, because I think it's amazing. If you're an MSP in this space, I think not only having Rewst as an automation tool, but also access to this community, and I guess like with like-minded people, is so great. Yeah, and I guess maybe my last question, I don't know if Nathan, if you have any other for Devin, but maybe as in kind of like a wrap up from my end. So for any MSPs who are currently on the webinar, Devin, who are just looking into or just want to start with automation, what advice would you give them, and what would you have liked to have known getting into it back in the days?
I mean, it's one of those where I always wish I would have done it sooner. But like, I mean, like I mentioned, we ran into a limitation in 2022 that kind of delayed us a year. But like, there's so many benefits. I think our managed user count from when we started has probably almost doubled. The team itself in that time has not, and that is purely just because we're able to do more work with the same amount of people. Like it's huge. Like our current ROI calculator is a Rewst flow. So all of that runs for when somebody submits an idea. And then all of our time savings tracking is also a Rewst flow, which then dumps into a database for us. So like it's changed so many things where we've removed tools from our stack because we've replaced that functionality with Rewst flows. Whenever I'm doing a demo about a new tool, like my first question is like, do you have an API? Because that's enough of like, it will basically stop the conversation for us. Where I think the last time I talked to Daniel, we're up there for like the most custom integrations or something like that, because we're constantly just adding more stuff. Which is also one of those other things that like hadn't come up of like there is that many pre-built integrations within Rewst, but you have the ability to add any other REST API. It is obviously a more advanced function, but it's wonderful for middleware.
Love it. So I guess in a nutshell, start today and not tomorrow, and you will immediately get your benefits and see like the, I guess, like positive impact by it. Love it.
Yeah, there's always like there's a scary part to it, and it's been like a reoccurring thing I've seen in the Discord of people will see the cost of Rewst and just go immediately, oh, I have that many managed users, this is going to be too hard of a sell. And it was within our first 6 months that we were returning a profit on what we were actually spending on the tool. That does sometimes require that you need to have a body, and like the crates help with that, so you need less bodies to get in there, but any time spent in it you're going to get out. That's a big thing. And I mean, how many professional services companies are there now, Nathan?
Oh, that's like 3. Too. Yeah, I think we have 4 or 5. We're adding more every month, but we have a whole other side of the business that we work with professional services companies. So if somebody wants to build something in Rewst, we can refer them to a professional services partner that Rewst has vetted, that we've gone through a special training, that they know how to build, and then we'll refer them to that company to build things. And we've seen a lot of partners with a lot of success there too. Just people that don't, a smaller MSP or a bigger MSP that doesn't have the time to dedicate a resource to building something custom that they really, really want. You just pay a professional services partner to be able to build it.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I've seen in conversations with a lot of the smaller MSPs, because when you're a 5-man shop trying to dedicate a body or even half a body to something like this is a big undertaking. But there's a lot of options for that, and almost anything that you can, and like I said, almost any time that you can put into it, you'll end up getting out.
Awesome, thanks. I guess Nathan, any questions from your end?
No, I think Devin answered everything that I had. So thanks, Devin.
Thank you so much, Devin.
Yeah.
Appreciate you hopping on the webinar and sharing, I guess, your insights. I think for anyone who's currently on the call, super valuable always. I mean, like, there's so much, I guess, someone from Sherweb or someone from Rewst can talk from a vendor perspective, I guess, but it's always so cool to hear, I guess, real life experiences. So thank you so much, Devin.
Welcome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Then I guess on the last slide, I haven't seen any questions in the chat, which either means that there are no questions and people are all happy and understood everything, or if you need some time to digest, also fine, and you can reach out to either one of us or in the chat. So Akila, I guess I didn't see any questions, right?
There's actually just 2 or 3 questions. So the first one I think is for Rewst. And is from Michael. I see it integrates with a lot of RMM and PSAs. Is there plans to integrate with Synchro?
So we've had a lot of active conversations with Synchro. Synchro's got a stance where they don't let the any integrations pass variables through to their script engine, and that's the whole benefit Rewst has with the RMM, is for us to be able to grab data from the PSA, grab data from SentinelOne, and then use a script from a repository and pass that script down to the RMM to execute. So we're still in active conversations with them. They're looking at some development things that they can do, but at this point, we're kind of at a standstill with Synchro, unfortunately.
Thanks, Nathan. We also got a question from Pascal. From what I understood, pricing-wise, MSPs are billed depending on the number of endpoints they manage. How is that number of endpoints determined?
Based on the managed users. So it's based on your Microsoft 365 user count, and then you would talk to Rewst. We don't bill for co-managed customers. We bill for the customers that MSP is charging for.
Awesome. And Marvin asked, will we see a demo? I think I can answer this one. Unfortunately for this webinar, we won't, but if you are interested in a demo or interested in talking more about Rewst, please feel free to reach out to your account managers or email us at partners@sherweb.com, and we can get you in touch with the right people. And Barbara has a question as well. Can you give an idea of pricing?
Yeah, we can talk about MSIP because I know, I guess, like in a nutshell, I mean, like, no, Nathan, I'll let you add your comments, but well, since it's your product, right? But basically, Rewst has like a tiering model depending on, as Nathan mentioned, the number of managed users. I think it starts at like 750 USD per the first tier, but we can share, I guess, like the detailed pricing with all the different pricing for all the different tiers with. I already forgot the name of who asked, but we can share that if you reach out to your account rep as well. We do have that pricing available.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. Jim is on here. He's better at that. So it's about $1.50 per user at the lower tiers, and then it reduces per user as you go up. He just sent me a Slack, so that's how I know.
Awesome. I think that was all the questions that we received. If you have any more questions for any of our speakers, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A window or the chat, and we can have them answer for you now. Otherwise, you can always reach out to your account managers, and they'll be happy to get you the answers that you need.
Sounds good.
We'll go ahead and a couple more minutes to see if anybody else has some questions. Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for co-hosting, and thanks to Devin for jumping on the webinar. I hope for everyone who was or who is still attending right now that it was insightful and useful, and hopefully we were able to create some interest about Rewst. I'm personally invested in this as well because Rewst, you guys are in my portfolio, but honestly speaking, in comparison to a lot of vendors we've recently launched, I think if you're an MSP in the space, it is the tool you need to have. I think it just makes so much sense, and it's just like so helpful. And any feedback I've heard so far was always very, very positive. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome, perfect. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we can give everyone some time back. Again, like I said, feel free to reach out to your account managers or partners at sherweb.com, and we will get you in touch with the right people to help answer your questions or set up a demo if you need. And just a reminder, before we close off, there will be a short survey at the end as soon as this webinar finishes. So please take some time to complete that. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session, as well as what you would like to see from us going forward. Thank you all so much for your time, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.